I always trusted her. We had what I believed was a perfect life, 2 beautiful children, a cozy home in the small, serene town of Elmwood, and a future that seemed promising. Or so I thought. One evening, while clearing away the dishes after dinner, I noticed her phone buzzing incessantly on the counter. It wasn't unusual for Sarah to get texts, but something about the way she grabbed the phone and stepped out of the room made my stomach twist. When she left it unattended later that night, curiosity got the better of me. What I found shattered my world in an instant. The messages were from someone named Evan. They weren't work-related, as I initially hoped. They were intimate. Words of affection, plans for secret getaways, and even criticisms of me were laid bare in a thread that felt like a dagger stabbing repeatedly into my chest. My hands trembled as I scrolled, my heart racing faster with every word. She wasn't just cheating. She was mocking our life together, calling it stifling and boring. I confronted her that same night. The look on her face when I said Evan's name told me everything I needed to know. There was no denying it. Instead of remorse, she lashed out, accusing me of invading her privacy. "You've never understood me," she said, her voice ice cold. "Evan does. He makes me feel alive." I stood there, stunned, as she packed a bag and walked out the door, leaving me alone with our 2 children, Lily and Sam, who were too young to comprehend the gravity of what had just happened. The days that followed were a blur of anger, confusion, and heartbreak. I replayed every moment of our relationship in my mind, questioning what I had missed, what I could have done differently. But the reality was harsh and unrelenting. She had made her choice, and it wasn't us. I had to explain to Lily, barely 6 years old, and Sam, only 4, that their mother wouldn't be coming home for a while. Lily asked if I had made her mad, and Sam wanted to know if she was coming back for his birthday. I didn't have the heart to tell them the truth, so I simply said, "Mommy needs time to think." As weeks turned into months, I tried to pick up the pieces of our broken life. Balancing work, the children, and my own crumbling emotions felt impossible at times. Every time I saw Sarah's name pop up on legal documents or bills, it was like reopening a wound that had barely started to heal. She sent sporadic messages, not to check on the kids, but to ask for financial help or to blame me for forcing her hand. She never once apologized. Instead, she seemed to revel in the new life she had built with Evan, posting photos of expensive dinners and vacations in places I couldn't afford to take her. The betrayal cut deeper with every passing day. I struggled to shield the kids from the harsh reality, pouring all my energy into giving them a sense of normalcy. I learned to braid Lily's hair, something Sarah used to do, and stayed up late helping Sam with his Lego sets, even when exhaustion weighed me down. In their laughter and hugs, I found a sliver of solace. They were my anchor, keeping me grounded in a storm that threatened to pull me under. But just as I began to regain my footing, Sarah returned. Unannounced, unapologetic, and as entitled as ever. It was a sunny afternoon, almost a year after she had walked out. I was playing catch with Sam in the front yard when her car pulled up the driveway. Lily dropped her bike and ran to me, her face a mixture of excitement and confusion. Sam clutched my leg, staring wide-eyed as Sarah stepped out, dressed in designer clothes and exuding the same confidence that had once charmed me. "Miss me?" she asked, her voice light, as if she had merely been away on a short trip. My blood boiled at her audacity, but I forced myself to stay calm for the sake of the kids. "What are you doing here, Sarah?" I asked, my tone clipped. "I realized I made a mistake," she said, her smile faltering slightly under my glare. "I want to come back. We can fix this for the kids." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She had shattered our lives, left us to pick up the pieces, and now she expected to waltz back in as if nothing had happened? I wanted to scream, to tell her exactly how much pain she had caused, but the sight of Lily and Sam watching us with wide, uncertain eyes held me back. "You need to leave," I said firmly, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "You lost the right to this family when you walked out." Sarah's expression darkened. "I'm still their mother," she snapped. "You can't just erase me." Her words ignited a fire in me that I had been suppressing for far too long. You erased yourself when you chose him over us, I shot back. You don't get to waltz back in here and play the victim. Sarah's face twisted with a mix of indignation and desperation. She wasn't used to being denied, especially not by me. For years, I had bent over backward to keep her happy, sacrificing my own needs to ensure she felt loved and secure. But this wasn't the woman I had married. The person standing in front of me now was a stranger, selfish, manipulative, and unwilling to take responsibility for her actions. I'm not leaving, she declared, crossing her arms. I'm staying until we figure this out. I have a right to see my children. I glanced at Lily and Sam, who stood frozen nearby, their young faces etched with confusion and fear. They didn't need this, they didn't deserve this chaos. Taking a deep breath, I knelt down to their level and spoke softly. Why don't you two go inside and play for a bit? I need to talk to Mommy. Lily hesitated, clutching my arm. Are you going to fight? She asked, her voice trembling. No, sweetheart, I assured her. We're just going to talk. Reluctantly, the kids went inside, and I turned my attention back to Sarah, my patience hanging by a thread. You've got 5 minutes to explain yourself, I said coldly. And then you leave. Sarah's bravado wavered for a moment before she straightened her shoulders. I made a mistake, okay? I thought I wanted something different, but it wasn't what I expected. Evan. He wasn't who I thought he was. I couldn't suppress the bitter laugh that escaped my lips. Oh, so now that your fantasy life didn't work out, you've decided to come crawling back? Do you have any idea what you put us through? What you put the kids through? Her eyes darted away, unable to meet my gaze. I didn't mean to hurt anyone, she muttered. I thought I needed more. You thought wrong, I snapped. You left me to explain to our children why their mother abandoned them. You left me to deal with the tears, the nightmares, the endless questions. And now you want to come back and pretend like none of it happened. I'm their mother. She shot back, her voice rising. They need me. No, I said, my voice firm. They needed you then. Now they need stability. They need someone they can count on. And that's not you. Her defiance crumbled, and for a moment, I thought I saw genuine regret in her eyes. Please, Aaron, she whispered, give me another chance. Let me be a part of their lives. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the scars she had left on our family ran too deep. It's not up to me anymore, I said, my tone softening just slightly. It's up to them. But you don't get to just walk in here and demand forgiveness. You have to earn it. Sarah nodded slowly, as if she finally understood the gravity of what she had done. Can I see them? Just for a little while? I hesitated, torn between protecting my children and giving them the chance to see their mother. Finally, I relented. You can see them, I said, but only if they want to, and it happens on my terms. When I called Lily and Sam back out, they approached cautiously, their small hands clutching each other for reassurance. Sarah crouched down, her eyes brimming with tears. Hi, my loves, she said, her voice trembling. I've missed you so much. Lily clung to my side, her wide eyes darting between us. Why did you leave? She asked bluntly, her voice small but unwavering. Sarah opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. For the first time, she seemed to grasp the weight of her actions. I made a mistake, she finally said. But I'm here now, and I want to make it right. Sam stepped closer, his curious gaze fixed on her. Are you staying forever? He asked. I placed a hand on his shoulder. That's up to Mommy, I said, meeting Sarah's gaze with a pointed look. And how much she's willing to change. Sarah nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'll do whatever it takes, she said. The rest of the day passed in a tense, fragile peace. Sarah stayed for a few hours, playing with the kids and answering their questions as best as she could. When it was time for her to leave, she hesitated at the door. Thank you, she said quietly, for giving me a chance. I didn't respond, my emotions too raw to find the right words. As I watched her drive away, I felt a mix of relief and uncertainty. This wasn't the end of our story, not by a long shot. But for now, it was enough. The days that followed Sarah's visit were a whirlwind of emotions. Lily and Sam seemed lighter, almost hopeful, as if their mother's return might somehow mend the fractures in their world. But I wasn't so sure. The pain she had caused was still fresh, and I couldn't shake the feeling that her motives were more self-serving than she let on. True to my word, I allowed her to see the kids once a week, always in a public place. The park became our meeting spot, a neutral ground where I could keep a watchful eye while giving her the space to reconnect with Lily and Sam. At first, the visits were strained. The kids didn't know how to act around her, and Sarah seemed unsure of how to bridge the gap she had created. But over time, they began to warm up to her, at least on the surface. One Sunday, while the kids were playing on the swings, Sarah turned to me with an earnest expression. "Thank you, Aaron," she said, "for letting me see them. I know I don't deserve it." "You're right," I replied, my voice even. "You don't." She flinched at my bluntness, but I didn't regret my words. I wasn't going to sugarcoat the truth. She had to understand the damage she had done if there was any hope of her truly changing. Still, there were moments when I caught glimpses of the woman I had once loved. The one who used to laugh with me over burnt pancakes on Saturday mornings or dance with Lily in the living room while Sam clapped along. Those memories made it harder to keep my guard up, but I reminded myself that the past couldn't erase the present. It wasn't long before Sarah began pushing for more. "I want to spend more time with them," she said one afternoon as the kids played tag. "Maybe take them for the weekend?" The request sent a jolt of panic through me. "That's not happening," I said firmly. "Why not?" she asked, her tone defensive. "I'm their mother. You don't just get to pick up where you left off, Sarah. Trust takes time, and you haven't earned that yet." Her face darkened, and for a moment, I saw the entitled woman who had walked out on us without a second thought. But then her expression softened, and she nodded. "I understand," she said quietly. "I'll wait." Despite her words, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was biding her time, waiting for the perfect moment to assert herself. That moment came sooner than I expected. A month after her first visit, I was blindsided by a court summons. Sarah was suing for joint custody of the kids. I stared at the document in disbelief, my hands shaking. After everything she had done, she had the audacity to demand equal rights to Lily and Sam? The idea was absurd. She hadn't been there for their scraped knees, their bedtime stories, their tears. She hadn't held them when they woke up crying for her in the middle of the night. I had done all of that alone. The day of the hearing arrived, and I felt a mixture of anger and dread as I entered the courtroom. Sarah was already there, dressed modestly and wearing an air of contrition. It was a stark contrast to the woman who had left us, but I wasn't fooled. I knew this was all part of her strategy. Her lawyer painted her as a remorseful mother who had made mistakes but was now ready to make amends. "My client acknowledges her past errors," he said, "but she loves her children and wants to be a part of their lives." I could barely contain my frustration as I listened to the lies. When it was my turn to speak, I took a deep breath and addressed the court. "Your Honor," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "I'm not here to punish Sarah. I'm here to protect my children." I detailed the years of abandonment, the sleepless nights, and the emotional toll her absence had taken on Lily and Sam. I described how I had worked tirelessly to provide them with a stable, loving home, and how Sarah's return had reopened wounds that were just beginning to heal. When I finished, there was a heavy silence in the room. Then, to my surprise, Lily stood up. "Please don't take us away from our dad," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "He's the one who's always been there for us." Tears filled my eyes as I watched her speak with a strength far beyond her years. Sam clung to my arm, his face buried against my side. "I don't want to leave," he whispered, his voice barely audible. The judge turned to Sarah, his expression stern. "Do you have anything to say?" She hesitated, her carefully composed facade beginning to crack. "I just want to make things right," she said, her voice wavering. "I know I've made mistakes, but I love my children." Her words might have carried more weight if not for the evidence my lawyer presented next. Photos and social media posts that contradicted her claims of hardship. Lavish vacations, expensive dinners, and carefree moments with Evan painted a very different picture of her life during the years she had been absent. The judge's decision was swift and decisive. Full custody remained with me, and Sarah was granted supervised visitation under strict conditions. As the gavel struck, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Justice had been served. But as I left the courtroom, holding Lily and Sam close, I couldn't help but feel a twinge of sadness. No matter what Sarah had done, she was still their mother, and that bond couldn't be erased. I resolved to find a way to navigate this complicated new reality, for their sake, if not for hers. In the weeks that followed the court hearing, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Lily and Sam seemed relieved by the stability, though I could tell the whole ordeal had left its mark on them. They asked fewer questions about Sarah, and instead focused on the everyday joys of childhood school projects, soccer games, and movie nights at home. But despite the calm on the surface, I could sense that something lingered beneath, especially in Lily. She had a way of staring off into the distance, her thoughts seemingly far away. Sarah's supervised visits began soon after the court's decision. The first few were awkward and stilted. She tried to engage the kids, but her efforts often felt forced, as if she were acting out a role she didn't quite understand. Lily was polite but distant, answering Sarah's questions with short, clipped responses. Sam, on the other hand, was more forgiving, his natural curiosity and optimism leading him to give her the benefit of the doubt. I watched from a distance, my presence a necessary condition of the visits. It was strange to see Sarah in this new light, a shadow of the woman I had once loved, now struggling to connect with the family she had abandoned. There were moments when I felt a pang of pity for her, but those moments were fleeting. The scars she had left on all of us were still too fresh. One Sunday afternoon, after a particularly strained visit, Lily pulled me aside. "Do we have to keep seeing her?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I knelt down to her level, searching her face for clues to what she was feeling. "What's on your mind, sweetheart?" I asked gently. She hesitated, her small hands twisting nervously. It feels weird, like she's a stranger." Her words hit me harder than I expected. She wasn't wrong. Sarah had become a stranger, not just to me but to the children she had left behind. "You don't have to do anything you're not comfortable with," I said, wrapping her in a hug. "This is your life too." As the weeks turned into months, Sarah's visits grew less frequent. She called occasionally, claiming she was busy with work or personal issues, but I suspected the truth was simpler. She wasn't ready to face the reality of the family she had broken. Each missed visit felt like a small betrayal, a reminder of the person she had always been. Then, one evening, the phone rang. It was Sarah. "I need to talk to you," she said, her voice shaky. "Can we meet?" Against my better judgment, I agreed. We met at a coffee shop in town, a neutral place where I felt I could keep my guard up. She looked tired, her once polished appearance replaced by something more subdued. For a moment, I almost didn't recognize her. "I wanted to apologize," she began, her hands wrapped tightly around her coffee cup. "For everything. For leaving. For the way I handled things. For all of it." I stared at her, unsure of what to say. The words I had wanted to hear for so long felt hollow now, as if they had come too late. "I thought I could fix things by coming back," she continued, her voice breaking. "But I see now that I can't. I've hurt you and I've hurt the kids, and I don't know if I can ever make it right." There was a vulnerability in her that I hadn't seen before, and for the first time, I believed she might actually mean what she was saying. But forgiveness wasn't something I could offer lightly, not after everything she had done. "I appreciate the apology," I said carefully, "but it's not me you need to make things right with. It's them." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I thought she might argue. But she nodded, a silent acknowledgement of the truth. "I'll keep trying," she said softly, "for as long as it takes." As I drove home that night, I thought about what she had said. Could she really change? Was it possible for her to rebuild the bridge she had burned so thoroughly? I didn't have the answers, but I knew one thing for certain. My priority was and always would be Lily and Sam. Over time, Sarah's efforts to reconnect with the kids became more genuine. She stopped making excuses and started showing up consistently. It was a slow process, and there were still moments of tension, but I could see that she was trying. And while I wasn't ready to trust her completely, I couldn't deny the small steps she was taking. One day, as we sat together at the park, watching Lily and Sam play, Sarah turned to me. "Thank you," she said simply, "for not giving up on me." I didn't respond right away, unsure of how to answer. Finally, I said, "I didn't do this for you. I did it for them." She nodded, accepting my words without argument. And in that moment, I realized that maybe, just maybe, there was hope, not for us but for her relationship with our children.